Good morning and welcome to the Iron County Fair. It's Talking Ag at the Ag Barn with Wade Eliason, the acting president for the Utah Farm Bureau Federation. We're so excited to have Wade here. One, it's my first time interviewing him ever, and I've always wanted to interview him for at least the last 2 years. And it's just really exciting to know that our state leadership with the Utah Farm Bureau Federation is willing to come down to Iron County and willing to really get involved at all levels of leadership. Wade, how are you doing this morning?
Good, McKenna. Thanks for having me down to the Iron County Fair. It's a great opportunity to be here and to see the agriculture in Iron County displayed here at this fair. And thanks for all you do as an agent here in Iron County, and not only an agent, but all you do to support agriculture here and the influence you have here. Thank you very much.
That is very kind of you, Wade. I really appreciate the camaraderie that the Federation offers, and really between the county leadership with Scott, Troy at the district level, and then you at the state leadership, it really does go to show that we're an all-encompassing family almost, and we're the village that's going to really protect ag for the next generations to come.
You know, that's so true that as we interact throughout the state and deal with the different problems throughout the state and build these relationships we have in the different counties, and it becomes statewide. And these relationships are what we can use to solve problems, because if we have the relationships, we can solve the problems, because we can have the hard conversations we need to have to solve the problems.
And it really is about those hard conversations, because sometimes people don't know how to bring them up or how to go through them, but those harder conversations, you know, as we've talked with Troy and Scott at this point, water has been one of those topics. But the core of that is making sure that we have relationships so that whoever's on the other side of the table from us knows and understands that we're coming from a place of respect and a place of needing to understand more and going through that. Because when we have those hard conversations, like who's going to get fed first, you know, or who's going to have the water first, it's coming from a line of respect and a line of wanting to make sure everybody survives.
Right. From that line of respect, we need to respect everyone's opinions, but we also need to respect ourselves as we have, like the water conversation, for example. We need to respect ourselves and have that conversation and respect our industry and stand up for our industry. That's what Utah Farm Bureau is here for, is to represent the industry. And we have a responsibility to help others understand our perspective on this. And as we go through this process and open ourselves up for criticism, we grow, we learn, we come up with solutions.
Well, and it's through that conflict almost that better things become of it. You don't grow without conflict. Does a seed grow without any dirt hindering it down?
No, sometimes you need to challenge that seed to strengthen the roots on that crop.
And I would dare say, I am not a corn farmer by any means, but doesn't corn in its infancy need some drought to make sure that it is promoting good root system to hold it through the windstorms that you could have as a larger plant?
Yeah, that's a good example, McKenna. It needs to build them roots, and it's no different than us as humans. We have to build our roots, and sometimes we get knocked around, and we have to get back up and go for it.
Well, and without those growing opportunities, we don't know what we're supposed to become, right?
Right, we're kind of like a balloon. People like to push on the balloon and try to reshape us, and we have to choose whether we're going to let them reshape us or not.
So with the state, as the Utah Farm Bureau Federation, as the state level, are we seeing more of a corn analogy, or are we seeing more of a balloon analogy?
I would say that the general public has a great desire to push on us and alter where we're going. But as you know, in agriculture, we have a core base of agriculture producers out there. They have strong roots. They're
standing up for what they believe.
They stand up for what they believe. And we have to continue to do that and go out and tell our story and help the other 99% of the public understand our perspective. They haven't had the opportunity to have the same opportunities and see the same things we've had to from an agriculture, or we get to from an agricultural perspective.
Absolutely. Well, and now Utah is special in this, I would say, because most of our population is still in rural communities.
I'd agree with that.
But most states, most of their populations are in high density, very urban areas, and they don't see agriculture every day. In a day's drive, you can get through the entire state of Utah, and most of it is either rangeland or cropland, right? You have some high density across the freeway, but most of our state is at least used to seeing, per se, agricultural activities, right?
Right.
But
they're used to seeing it, and a high percentage of the people want to connect themselves back to agriculture through great-great-grandpa, and they can remember just a little bit about going to the farm. But people have a great desire to connect back to that agriculture.
So would you also say that this also goes back to education and making sure our kids are back in the fields almost?
I would love to see the kids back in the field, but I don't think that's realistic. Like, as I was coming in here today, I was walking up to this barn, and a gentleman approached me to said, "What are you doing here? Do you have kids here in the fair?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not even from here." And he's like, "Well, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "I'm coming to see your county fair here." And he says, "Well, who are you?" And I explained to him I was the president of Utah Farm Bureau, and he's like, "What?" And I started explaining to him, and we instantly made a connection. He wanted to tell me about his ag experience, and we talked about the policy development process within agriculture, and he was just like, he was just so intrigued, like he almost followed me right in here.
Well, we could have had him on the interview as well.
We should have, I guess. But I guess I was amazed that he was that intrigued and taken back. He just wanted to connect with agriculture. As a rule, the general public wants to connect with agriculture. And we have to be open enough to let that happen, and sometimes that's difficult for ag people, as by nature we're a closed people.
There are a little bit of curmudgeons, I would say, for, older, generations of farming. But one thing that I've experienced, at least in the industry that I'm in, is anytime that I'm willing to learn from them, or that I'm allowing them to teach me something, they're pretty receptive to it. Just like you taught that young man that you ran into, he was really eager to learn from you, and you were receptive to that. You wanted to teach him as much as you could. And getting the state involved, at the different levels, you could really start impacting the education of where to guide these future generations.
Right. And I think we have that opportunity within Utah Farm Bureau, even within the Farm Bureau Insurance Agency. As you guys connect to people all the time, every day, all day, you have the opportunity to explain to them how you're connected back to agriculture. And I know enough about you, McKenna, that you take every opportunity you can to connect people back to agriculture. And I think that just builds a healthier relationship between the Federation and the insurance side of things, and in turns makes us a better society.
I would say so, because at least in my household now, I live in Cedar City. I live in Cedar City, not in the valley or anything. So I'm limited on land, but I do try to get my kids to garden with me and to plant whatever we could plant in our flower beds and different things, so that they can see where some of our food comes from. We have a great many friends that still are producers, whether they're cattle producers or sheep producers, and I try to take them out during lambing and calving season so they can see kind of the cycles of life and what work it does take to make sure that our area has a sustainable food source. But it goes to show that kids are also so hungry, and not necessarily deprived per se, but so hungry to see and learn what agriculture is about. It's the easiest thing for them because it's so tangible, and kids primarily learn through through touching and feeling things. So let them hold a baby lamb, let them go through those different experiences, because in turn you're shaping and creating a reality that might not be there when they're our age.
So that's so true, McKenna. We had an experience. My wife was telling me about it this morning. My grandson and my daughter was out moving sprinklers yesterday, and my grandson picked some alfalfa that was in the bloom, had the blue seeds bloom on it, and then he picked a sunflower and he took that home to his grandma and put it in a vase and give it to her.
Aww.
And them kids just that's a way for them to connect. You talked about your kids wanting to connect in the garden. And I think there's more to a garden than what we really realize. It's a chance to connect with the soil. It's a chance to connect with the earth. And as humans, we just have a natural tendency to want to connect to that. And, as we're entering this fall season, and we talk about gardens, it's just always interesting to me as we enter this time of year, as people pick their gardens, harvest the fruits of their labors for the year, how they share it with people. They're so excited to share it with people. People are so excited to receive that, and it just strengthens us as people.
It really brings it back to the village mentality and the camaraderie, and making sure that humans are connecting on that base level of just showing up for each other. Because at some point, I know that A garden wouldn't produce as much as a B garden, but together their communities would thrive, right?
Right, and look what that does for your kids, to have that experience, to see something grow from the seed in the spring to now it's producing something.
Well, and it takes time,
and work.
Time, work, a little bit of water, as we're experiencing today.
And a little
in
bit of
Parowan.
stress.
Only a little bit of stress.
Let's go weed the garden.
Yes.
I don't want to weed the garden. I want to go play type.
Oh, but weeding is so therapeutic.
It is.
And as humans connect on a deeper level, some of those diseases and some of those things that have been coming up more prevalent in these newer generations, if they really did get back to the dirt, some of those, in my own opinion, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an anything, I'm barely an insurance agent, but one would say that as you reconnect with things that truly matter, the simplicity of life is what we're really going for. Put your phone down, go through the different things that really benefit you as a human, talking to one another, building those teams. It's really important that we go back to the core.
Yeah, you mentioned those teams, and that's an important part that we need to do within agriculture, is build those teams to move forward, to deal with the issues we have, McKenna.
Well, and with the Utah Farm Bureau Federation, each county has a county president, there's region reps through those different things, and where it's a grassroots organization, they have those villages and team mentality kind of built in. If Kane County is needing some information that Iron County has, I know between Dusty and Scott, those problems and issues get resolved, or conflict presents a synergistic moment where there's problem solving and then new problems arise, but then the county level, or the region level then takes it, and then the state level eventually through those different conversations, but problems get solved to some degree, or they highlight different areas that we can improve ourselves.
Right, and sometimes we solve problems and we don't even know we're solving problems just by having a conversation from county to county. As we talk to Kane County, Iron County talks to Kane County, they solve problems and come up with solutions in a simple phone call. Because they come at it from different perspectives.
Yes, and it's through those different perspectives that people are really allowed I would say, vulnerability, right? The honesty, the showing up to the table, this is what I'm experiencing versus, what you're experiencing, but through those moments of sharing and being vulnerable, you can create problem-solving solutions.
Right.
Or ideas to, well, if we're experiencing this over here and you're experiencing it, who else is?
Right.
Where can we gain the knowledge to problem solve and bring it up through the state and through the ag, specifically, because it feels like ag is under such pressure right now, and we're almost like a canning pressure pot, so to speak.
Right.
Because at some pressure point, this pot's going to, give, right? And the more pressure you put on your one sustainable food source, we can only do so much.
That's right.
But what we're doing is we're pushing back because ag still matters. Ag feeds this entire nation, let alone just the state of Utah or Iron County specifically. But it's only, I believe, 2 or 3% of our entire nation feeds
It's
the
under
entire.
1% right now.
Sorry, 1% of our nation feeds the entire nation.
And that's an interesting perspective, because if you think about that 1%, it gives the other 99% the opportunity to wake up every morning and go succeed at whatever endeavor they have a desire to succeed at. It gives them that opportunity, the other 99%, to go find success in their life. Food's free, abundantly, it's not free, it's abundantly available for everyone.
And that goes to show that most countries, second and third world countries, spend 60% of their time, I think, just making sure they have food. 60% of their time. That's
Right.
a normal working week.
So you take 60% of your time and you start having to spend that feeding yourself, McKenna. Look at how that changes your life.
It changes it dramatically. And then add kids to the mix, or dogs and chickens and sheep. I mean, you're a sheep producer, so you're constantly worrying about 1,000 mouths to feed anyways.
Right. So, I mean, it's good for everyone. Agriculture is good for everyone.
So if there would be one or two things at the state level that all of us should be aware of that's happening or that we can get involved in, what would be those things?
So right now, some of the things at the state level that are big issues right now is we know the state is very heavily public lands. And it's very important to succeed in agriculture in the state of Utah to have them public lands available to make these farmers and ranchers succeed, because there's not enough private land in the state of Utah for these farmers and ranchers to succeed on. Public land's a very important part of the dynamics of our state. And as you watch the what's happening in our country at this time, there's a lot of focus on our public lands of things we think they should be used for rather than grazing. And right now it's very important that we show up, speak up, and talk about the importance of those public lands in sustaining us as a people.
And I would say that with that, it's most important because everybody needs to be at the table.
Right.
Not just public use, or recreational use. Not
Multiple
just,
use.
We need multiple use, everybody represented on the table, because through that, we can come up with better solutions rather than a tit-for-tat society, I would say.
Right.
It's how do we build this together as a team? What are we working on? What are you guys working on? What's the other guys working on? And going through that, because with all of the different dynamics of that, it's really where we become the Utah Farm Bureau Federation, which is a grassroots organization.
Right.
Right?
Very good point, McKenna. Very
Thank
well
you.
said.
Hardly. Thank you so much, Wade, for joining us for this quick interview. I really appreciate you coming all the way down, because it really goes to show that you're invested in not only Iron County, but the counties where you live and the entire state as a whole.
Well, thank you for having me, McKenna, and I just want to thank Iron County for all that they do to represent agriculture, and thank you for everything.
Thank you, Wade.